Hey everyone, what's up? Today, I want to give everyone 10 beginner tips for Last Epoch ahead of the full 1.0 launch next month on February 21st. I've recently been playing a lot of Last Epoch and trying out different classes and builds, so I wanted to share some tips I've learned as a beginner that I hope will make your Last Epoch experience as great as mine has been so far. Number 1, use the loot filter. The loot filters are actually very powerful in this game and pretty easy to use. So how it works is if you just go under your main menu and then into settings, you go over to gameplay. There is a loot filter section right here. So you go to manage loot filters and you can actually import these if you use Maxroll. The Maxroll guide, it's a pretty easy process that you can just copy and paste the loot filter into here. So I'll kind of show you how to do that real quick. So right here, you'll see like this plus button. And if you don't have any loot filters in here, it'll kind of just show this screen over here. But like what you can do, let me pull up an example here. This is just a Rune Master guide here. So if I go to the loot filter section, they actually have a guide here that is helpful. But if you do the download one, and it's as simple as highlighting this. So if you do Control-Shift-End and then Control-C, that will copy it. So if you go back into your Last Epoch, it's as simple as clicking that paste clipboard content, and it'll load this into there for you. You can also actually just, if you just make a folder on your desktop or under your Last Epoch folder, you can open the file from here as well. And you can also create new ones from scratch if you kind of know what you're after. Another helpful tip here is even if you use like one from Maxroll to start, you can actually add a condition here that says affix. And then I can look at the actual affix I'm after. So if we go down to, might be up actually, yeah, right here, health. Right, we can confirm that, and then you've got some kind of options over here to change the visibility how you want, right? So we can change the color. Maybe you want to make it, like this orangish color. The emphasize button will capitalize the item label. Definitely a great way to use this to your advantage. Number 2, inventory management, quality of life. I've actually been out farming, and I've got a few items in my inventory here. And there's 2 buttons that will really make your lives easy when it comes to managing some of this. The first one is actually this transfer crafting items button. So what this actually does, and I'll show you by clicking it, you'll see that all of my crafting materials basically just get vacuumed up out of my inventory and go into the crafting UI. So that's one way to really just clean up your inventory almost immediately. The second one is actually this sort items button, which is also pretty nice because it'll take care of the Tetris game for you. So even if you have a lot more items, like say you get back in and you've already transferred your crafting items and your inventory looks like this, now to use a sort item, and it really does clean up the space in your inventory pretty quickly and easily. Number 3, the basics of the passive tree. So if I go ahead and pull up the passive tree here, you'll see that you have your base class up here at the top, and then you have your 3 potential masteries here. For this character, I did select the Rune Master. So a couple things I wanted to talk about here is first, even if you've already unlocked the mastery, you can't actually start putting points in to the mastery until after you've put in 20 hard points into the base class. So I need to call that out first. One other cool thing is even though I am spec'd into Rune Master, and you'll see I have one point here, I can actually use some points in the other masteries I didn't select. You'll see this chain here in the middle, which is about I think it's like 22 points. So that would be kind of the max you could put into each of those masteries. But you can actually put in points. We'll just do this one into the additional masteries. So even though I'm a Rune Master, I can still put points into these secondary masteries, which is pretty cool. Number 4, the basics of skill specialization. So as you start leveling up, you'll start actually unlocking more skills. So pulling up the basic skills section, you'll see we have up here, these are skills that you unlock just by leveling up. These skills down here are actually unlocked by putting points into the passive tree. So if I pull the passive tree back up, you'll kind of just see like you start unlocking these at different levels as you progress your passive. And then you also have them that you unlock from the actual mastery you pick. Being a Rune Master, I've got my 5 down here. Now what's cool about these is you can actually pick up to 5 skills to specialize in. Now these you will unlock as you level. So like the max one right here is level 50, which I haven't reached yet, so you can see it's still locked. But what this allows you to do is as you spec into these or specialize into them, it gives you a little passive tree that you can use to empower that actual skill. So like you get some cool buffs here based on what you pick and how many points you put in. One thing to call out here is if you want to connect to one of these bubbles, you'll see these 2 little dots in the middle, which will just indicate how many points you have to put into the connecting skill to unlock this one. So this example was 2 points. This one down here is only 1. The cool thing about these is you're not locked in to a specialization. So when you first start leveling, like for example, my Rune Invocation, I didn't have unlocked for a while. So I was spec'd into something else. What you're able to do is this respec button up here. If you click on that, you have the option to despecialize the skill. So if I do that, right, now I have that open again. So I could actually swap out. We'll just say like, maybe I want to do Flame Rush, right? I can actually specialize into Flame Rush. And then I would have some points I can put in. I think it does deduct a point or 2 if you do respec, so you're not going to have quite as many points as you had in it before. But you'll obviously gain those back by leveling. Number 5, unlimited stash space bought with in-game currency. Now this is actually one of my favorite things about Last Epoch. What I like about action RPG so much is finding loot and keeping it. You can actually add just stash tabs. Like for this one, my next one is 10,000 gold, which is not very much. And then it does scale, right? Another thing that's cool is you can actually add categories. So like if you want to categorize stuff where you have multiple stash tabs under it, you can do that as well. So it's definitely a powerful thing. You'll find items in the game, like idols, for example, and I'll talk about this later in the video. These I usually keep every single one that I find. Like they're good for alts that you might make, and exalts are good for in-game crafting. I'll talk about some crafting later as well, but basically what I'm after is don't be afraid to save stuff. Another good thing to save is you might find white items, like some worn boots that have an implicit faster movement speed on them. It's always good to keep those because I'll show you in the crafting how you can really make that a good item. And in other ARPGs, you'd have to make the decision of throwing it on the ground and not keeping it. So this is kind of the opposite. So it's really, really nice. Number 6, always buy Runes of Shattering anytime you visit the vendor. This is actually how you salvage items. So if I go up here, this is what they look like. So I'm going to buy these 2 from her. This is what actually allows you to destroy an item and get some of the crafting materials that you're going to need for certain things. So if I pull up my forge here, we'll just use this for an example. If we get rid of that and we add my Rune of Shattering here, what you can see is like this, the affixes that this has is health regeneration. There's an experimental one. This is a kind of special item, but an index as well. So I click the shatter button. You'll see I actually got some health regeneration and health shards from it. So you're going to need as many of these as you can find. Another thing that you can do is if you're running low on them, you can go to other areas. Like if I go to the Keeper's Camp here, I can run over here to this vendor and see she's got a couple for sale as well. Generally, the vendor is going to have between 1 and 5. Anytime you go to the vendor, just make it a habit to buy all of these that you find. Number 7, Crafting 101. Now, there's some great videos on YouTube that you can watch that'll really kind of do a deep dive on crafting and go into a lot more detail than I'm going to do here. What my goal is to just give you the absolute basics so that you can use this to your advantage while you're leveling and playing through the campaign. So if you hit F, you'll pull up your forge. And this is where you're able to do all of your crafting, where you can add affixes, you can change affixes, you can level up affixes. And all of that is done first by understanding the forging potential on an item. So looking at these boots, they have 14 forging potential. This helmet has 23 forging potential. The staff has 22 forging potential. And that is a number that is going to run out as you craft additional things on it. So you do have a finite amount of crafts that you can do to a specific item. Just to give you an example here, if I put these boots in here, and we'll just say like I want to do all elemental res, you can see down here that it's going to cost me between 1 and 10 forging potential. Add that affix. So knowing this only has 14, I mean that could, if we got a 10, that's probably going to brick this item, right? Because I'm not going to be able to do much with only 4 left. One cool thing is these glyphs of hope that you will find you can add as well. And you'll see here, it actually gives you a 25% chance to have no forging potential cost. So I usually use these on just about every craft that I do, just knowing that there's a 1 in 4 chance that it could completely negate the forging potential cost. And it's going to allow me to add and upgrade more affixes onto these items. Another helpful thing early on is if you find a Rune of Discovery. So like these boots, for example, they're just white boots, but I like the implicits on them. The 8% increased movement speed and the 15 to armor is great. So like a Rune of Discovery can be a good option. So I'm just going to go ahead and use one of these first. So it'll actually add 4 tier 1 affixes onto this item. In crafting on this game, there are 5 tiers. The higher tier is actually good. So tier 1 is the lowest, tier 5 is the max that you can get on crafting. So that's just a basic. We haven't used any forging potential, right? And now we've got some stuff that we could play with. If I wanted to change an affix, one thing I can do is this Glyph of Chaos. And basically what this does is it'll upgrade the tier of it, but it also will change it to something random, right? So we got our Glyph of Chaos on there. We're going to try to roll this to something else, but it's also going to upgrade it from T1 to T2. Boom. It actually changed it to intelligence, which is quite good for my class. So that's actually a pretty big win there. Although, as you'll see, it subtracted 7 forging potential. So that kind of hurts us a little bit. We lost quite a bit there. And that's part of that too, is right. I had to use the Glyph of Chaos, so I couldn't use my normal Glyph of Hope. But like you can also just upgrade. Like health I like, right? So I want my health to go up a tier. We're gonna upgrade that. Boom. It's actually 6 forging potential we lost. So also not great. Like, we can try vitality and see what we get. We only have 1 forging potential left. And we did upgrade it, and we're out of forging potential. But I mean, basically what I was able to do was take white boots, and now it's a rare pair of boots that has intelligence, vitality, light res, and some health on it. That's just a basic understanding of how crafting works, and you can really make some great leveling gear that'll make your lives much, much better while you're playing through. Number 8, using idols. So if you've ever played Diablo 2 before, and you're familiar with the charm system, the idols in Last Epoch function in a similar fashion, except for they have their own dedicated inventory versus them having to be in your main inventory competing with your loot, which was kind of annoying. So this is actually a great addition. But you have this little idol area up here that you can put idols in. You'll actually unlock more of these slots as you play through the game and get into the end game, which will allow you to use more and more of these. But as you can just see by the few examples that I have up here, maybe you have issues with resistance or low damage or low life. You can use these idols to really address a lot of that. So like physical res was a problem I was having. Health is always nice. So vitality, some poison res. But I do try to, as I mentioned earlier in the video, save all of my idols, and they come in all different shapes and sizes. Like you can even see like this is a 2x2 one. This one's 4 across. Some of these are like 3 or 4 down. So there's a lot of kind of Tetris you can play up here with this. It's kind of fun just doing that in general. But these idols are really great for addressing a lot of different issues that you're gonna have. And I even just found this unique one. It's kind of interesting. Looks like it synergizes with Singularity, but then you can't deal critical strike. So it's an interesting concept. So definitely use these idols to your advantage. Number 9, use the in-game guide. Last Epoch actually has a very comprehensive and easy to use game guide. So if we go into the main menu, you'll see the game guide right here. The game guide actually has all kinds of information around even a lot of the things I've talked about in this video. So if you ever run into something or have a question, they actually address a lot of things in this game guide. It's quite well done. So I would check in here first. Like we talked about skill specialization. Like I was talking about implicits earlier. Maybe you don't know what an implicit is. This explains that. So there's a lot of just good information in here. It is all searchable as well. So you can search by keywords and stuff, right? Like damage over time. And so like now I see this is available right there. So it's very helpful, very useful, and highly suggest using that when you're first starting out to address a lot of the questions you're going to have. Number 10, decide which item faction you want to be a part of. So Last Epoch within the last couple of weeks has actually released their take on trade as well as solo self-found. And they're doing so through 2 different factions. The Trade League is going to be called the Merchants Guild. The solo self-found version is going to be called the Circle of Fortune. So you'll have to pick one or the other when you're starting out. If you do the Merchants Guild, you'll be able to buy and sell items through an auction house for gold. And if you do the Circle of Fortune, it's actually going to be an SSF mode, so you're not going to necessarily be able to trade the items. You'll be able to get higher drop rates on certain items. And they also have these things called prophecies that you'll be able to buy with favor, which is a currency that you're going to get by leveling up and participating in the Circle of Fortune. And you'll be able to actually target farm with those because they give specific rewards. So definitely have an idea and research which one of those two you want to be a part of when the game launches next month. So, are you going to be playing Last Epoch when it launches next month? If so, what class or mastery are you going to be starting with? Let me know down in the comments below, and hopefully you don't get Tele stomped as much as me. Oh damn, I didn't know he was going to run at me like that.